One of the best ways to get better at raiding in Final Fantasy XIV is to observe and surround yourself with people who inspire you to step up your game. No matter how good you think you are, there is always someone better than you who you can learn from, or someone who drives you to elevate yourself to heights you never knew you could achieve. The content creation game is no different, so today I'm going to react to 5 of the most watched healer videos on YouTube to see what I like, what I disagree with, and most importantly, what I can learn. I'm going to analyze these videos from both a healer perspective, or the information provided, but also through a presentation lens in order to see how I can use the techniques involved to level up my own content. I'm Estar, an experienced healer but a brand new YouTuber, so if you like what you see, please click the subscribe button below so you can catch more of this content the moment it goes live. The first video we're going to watch is FFXIV Momo's Healer Guide. Momo is one of, if not the best, healer content creators that Final Fantasy XIV has to offer. Let's check it out.
So, you want to get into healing in Final Fantasy XIV. You're new to the game and don't know where to start, or maybe you just picked up healing. If you're looking for some tips and advice, or want to hear the thoughts of someone who has healed in Final Fantasy XIV for a long amount of time at a high level, this video is for you. In this video, we will be going over the healing culture in this game, from dungeons to 8-man difficulty content. If you are curious or are looking for an in-depth dungeon guide for healing, you can check out my Scholar Dungeon Guide video, which primarily focuses on Scholar but has tips that can be used universally throughout all the healers.
So first of all, fantastic music, probably one of the best songs in the game, and great intro.
First, let's start off with the basic fundamentals of what healing is in Final Fantasy XIV. If you're coming over from another MMO, let's say World of Warcraft, you may be more familiar with what we call reactive healing. Reactive healing isn't necessarily bad because in situations such as progression or unfamiliar raid environments like the Party Finder, you may need to react suddenly if things get out of control. However, in Final Fantasy XIV, most outgoing damage is going to be predictable because it is scripted and generally hardly changes between pull to pull. Because of this, it should lead you to play at a more proactive play style. Now, what does playing proactively mean? Playing proactive means researching a fight or making mental notes of outgoing damage as it happens and planning your toolkit around it with little to no variance between pulls.
In short, I didn't even need to make my last video. The spreadsheet's for T, really well done.
Whether you're doing dungeons or raids, you should be thinking about the fight ahead of time so you know what abilities you're going to use for the occasion. While most damage in this game is scripted and predictable, there sometimes can be slight variables between pulls. Like in E4 Savage, you may get a landslide or car pattern first, which can directly affect your healing rotation. When you run into these scenarios, it is important to understand different trajectories if a fight does include them, and adapt by making separate healing rotations if need be.
And that was important in this past tier, specifically the door boss. Depending on if it was legs first or snakes first, you had to have a completely different healing plan.
Or core fundamental I want to touch upon is the fact of healer DPS. In Final Fantasy XIV, you have the responsibility to do damage if your healing is not immediately needed. When you get to in-game raids, your skill level as a healer is directly influenced by how efficient you are at doing damage while keeping the party alive. I say this very specifically as doing damage alone does not make you a good healer. You need to be able to work with your co-healer and be communicative while being able to either prevent or recover others' mistakes.
Again, Momo doing my last video just so much better. This dude is an absolute pro.
On top of keeping the party alive. I've brought this up in a previous video, but if you're not comfortable doing large amounts of damage right off the bat, don't force yourself to, as it can lead to wipes. Instead, start off lighter and slowly increase the amount of damage you do until you are synergized with your own job, party, or even the fights. If there's one thing you take from this video, it's the mentality that, even in situations that seem impossible to recover, there's always a way until there's not.
I like how he reinforces some of his key points with the words on the screen. I think it definitely makes things easier to understand from a viewer perspective, and it also punches home the importance of what he's saying in that instance.
One of the worst things you can do is give up when the going gets tough, and as somebody who basically lives in the Party Finder, this is all too common. It's also extremely important that you have patience and are communicative. If you don't have patience going into healing, then you are going to have a bad time. Remember, you are the backbone of the party. It is your job to make sure the party gets to the finish line regardless of what happens. This means you are going to be correcting player errors. As someone who switched from DPS to healer, the transition of mindset was probably the biggest hurdle. Every mistake somebody makes, regardless of who makes it, will most likely affect you. Remember that. You should also be communicative. Tanks pulling wall to wall in dungeons should be the norm, as a DPS should be spamming their AoE abilities on large packs. If you notice a tank is not popping cooldowns, a slight friendly nudge to remind them or mention it usually goes a long way. Now, some tanks won't be as receptive to your advice, and that's fine because there's not really much you can do there. This goes back to the patience part of healing, but if you encounter someone who is not receptive and does not use their tank cooldowns, you'll just have to get through it. But please tanks, if a healer is offering you advice on how to make things easier for them and the party, at least try to listen to them. What you do usually affects the healers the most, so it pretty much goes without saying, if a healer tells you to pull big, try to pull big, and if a healer tells you to pop cooldowns in spots, use your cooldowns.
I feel like since then, big pulls are really the norm. I really can't remember the last time I've got a single pulling tank. To the point where if a tank's even a little slow now, it's noticeable, even if they are still pulling in large numbers.
Alright, so as you're going through the game, whether it be dungeons, trials, or even raids, don't be reserved about using certain AoE healing as a form of single target healing.
That is great advice. I can't tell you how many times I do that on Sage, especially in this past tier when tanks take so much damage relative to the party. In both P5S and P7S, a lot of times I use my AoE healing, mit, and regens specifically to heal one or both tanks as opposed to the party. Spreadsheeting out a fight allows you to do that because you know when you will actually need that mitigation for the party. A lot of times, especially on Sage, you have Kara more times than you even need it. So using it on tanks when there's an opportunity and it's not going to cost you is essential to efficient healing.
Tools like Asylum for White Mage and Earthly Star for Astrologian heal everyone that is in their radius, but they can also be used to sustain the tank's HP. When healing in dungeons, this is especially important as AoE tools can be used in conjunction with single target healing during trash pulls to keep the tank alive.
As I'm planning out the videos that I want to do, I really didn't even think about dungeons, and I do think it's important. The problem is the absolute best Sage dungeon guide in existence is this one right here. And the one thing that Momo did, which was a huge inspiration for me, was put the tools themselves on the video, because as you're watching this, not only do you see it in the context of the video that's helpful, you can also screenshot this and put it on your second screen as opposed to a video and use this as a guide mid-dungeon.
Krasis and Physis onto the shield potency, and depending on the size of the pull, we may opt to add a Holos to the mix shortly after to help mitigate damage longer. At this point, we are pretty much set in stone.
To this day, this is how Sages heal dungeons. Momo came out and did this very early on, and it is exactly how every Sage approaches a dungeon, every pull to this day.
My final tip before sending off the video is about slide casting. Slide casting is the process of moving before your cast ends, but after it has already registered in the game. This is mainly due to the way the game engine works. When looking at your cast bar, you can see when casting an ability such as Broil or Glare, we move our characters when the bar says 0.50 remaining.
I like the zoom in feature. He does a lot of things with zooms and kind of picture-in-picture editing that I think is really good that I really should pick up.
At around this time, give or take depending on your latency, you will be able to move without interrupting your cast. Learning how to slide cast is extremely important, as maximizing your damage and healing in boss fights revolves around pre-positioning yourself and or reaching destinations.
Oh god, E10S, such a bad fight.
If you don't learn how to properly slide cast, then you will lose potential GCDs by moving slow or using instant cast abilities with lower potencies to get around. A lot of players might not know about this simple trick for slide casting, but if you place an emote on your hotbar, preferably near your cast bar, it will gray out, but right before your cast bar finishes, it will glow. When this happens, this means you are able to move. This can be a very valuable tool when learning how to properly slide cast, and I highly recommend using it until it becomes ingrained into your play.
People out there these days think that you need special third-party tools to slide cast effectively? Nah, just need an emote. An emote does everything you need.
I hope this video has been useful to you in some way. We went over a lot of information here and there's definitely more I could talk about, but let's save that for another time.
That's a really cool shot. I like his artistic shots like this. It looks really, really well done. I've been kind of heavily relying on the full motion videos, but he made this one himself and it's almost like an animated screensaver in a way that I think looks really good.
If this video feels overwhelming, do not worry. Space things out at your own pace and take it from there. Don't overload yourself with information. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe for more content, and I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching, and peace!
Alright, the next video we're going to watch is by Etheria. So Etheria is someone I'm not familiar with, but this video has blown up from a month ago. They said they were inspired to make this video. They've seen a lot of new players, especially beginner healers in roulettes recently, so let's check it out.
Hi friends, Etheria here, and I've been playing healer ever since I started the game back in December of 2019.
Okay, so even though the video is for beginner healers, the healer is not a beginner.
While I'm by no means the best healer in the game, I do feel that I have learned a lot about healer in that time, especially since starting my YouTube channel.
You already get points just for playing Sage.
And I feel ready to share my expertise with perhaps some newer players or just people that are new to healer and maybe are struggling a little. So let's get started with the low level healing, and by low...
I like the title cards. I think that title cards are interesting from a structuring perspective. I don't know if I want to have title cards or if I want to have just words on the screen, but I do think some sort of structuring helps your viewer.
I really mean beginner healer. This is somebody who has just started the game, who has just started playing healer, and really doesn't know much about what they're supposed to do or how to heal in this game. So let's just get right into it. First of all, you should know that Final Fantasy XIV is a little bit different from other MMOs in that healers are expected to DPS.
So that's interesting to me. So I don't have an extensive MMO experience. I played a little bit of 11. I played a little bit of Star Wars Galaxies back in the day. But Final Fantasy XIV is really my first main MMO. Really the first MMO that I've put any amount of time in outside of just playing casually. And time again, we see this whether it's Momo, whether it's Etheria. This game is unique in that healer's DPS. And it makes me wonder sometimes if I would even play healer if I was playing a different game, because if your only job is to heal, I'm not sure how interesting I would find that. I like having to heal on top of DPS. I like that DPS is a priority.
I want to talk about the skill Esuna. This is a skill that you'll get, I believe, at level 10, and it basically allows you to cleanse debuffs from your party members and yourself. So things like slow, stun, silence, paralyze. These are all things that you as a healer are responsible for removing from your teammates.
Honestly, I think that's great info. So the game doesn't really highlight skills like that too often. You don't see that in a lot of videos, and I do think there's value in highlighting some of those lesser known things for a new player.
So those are all of the things I have to say about healing for now. I hope this was helpful for new and budding healers. And if you have any questions or any tips, then please leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then please remember to leave a sacrifice for Lord Algorithm in the form of a like, comment, share, or subscribe. And thank you so much if you watched this whole video through.
So we both do the emotes at the end, which I think is funny. I think that's kind of the standard. If you don't have your face on screen, show your Final Fantasy character showing some emotion like a person would if their face was on screen. So yeah, I thought this was a very good video. Like and subscribe. Well done. Well done, Etheria. The next one we're going to watch is Misshapen Chair, who along with Lucy Pyre is I think one of the fastest growing content creators in the Final Fantasy community. This is a ton of views just from a video that says healing is not fun, healer bad, and make healers better. So there's clearly a point of view. Very few things are more annoying than someone who's wishy-washy or meh or mid on everything and never has an opinion. While I don't know if I'm going to agree with this opinion, let's check out the video.
Greetings, travelers. It's me, resident scholar masochist, and now dejected degenerate weeaboo. Every job I touch turns to dust. In today's class, we are going to examine the green role type in Final Fantasy XIV, a topic that I'm sure people think I've talked about before, but you would be wrong. On paper, being a healer in an MMORPG means that you have to heal people and keep them alive. Yes, this is true, but what do you do with your time when you don't need to heal anything? Yes, you do damage. This is it. You now know how to play a healer in any MMORPG. I've educated you. I no longer need to make any guides.
So that's a pretty funny intro. That is how you play healer in Final Fantasy XIV. You do heal and you do DPS.
Obviously, healing is not technically this simple. The problem with games like these is that you need players to fulfill all role types in order for content to even be run in the first place, a problem that every developer has to try and find a way to fix so that people who play the only fun jobs in the game don't have to wait around for 45 minutes to get into a piece of required content in order to progress the juicy story, which is the only thing that people care about.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack in that sentence. So first of all, from a video standpoint, I really like his fast edits. His edits are snappy, they're visually interesting, and they're rapid enough to keep your attention. He said that DPS were the only interesting jobs in the game, and honestly, I disagree with this entirely. So from my perspective, all of these jobs all do damage. They all have the responsibility to attack the boss with as much uptime as humanly possible. What makes tanks and healers interesting to me is that tanks and healers also have different responsibilities. Tanks have aggro management, they have boss positioning, not as much anymore, and they have defensive cooldowns that they have to manage efficiently. Healers, of course, I'm a healer main. I find it inherently interesting to have to manage my off global cooldowns in order to maximize my damage. I like that healer gameplay involves strategic planning ahead of time, as well as efficient use of OGCD cooldowns.
Final Fantasy XIV healing has been through a lot over the years, going from the good old days of overhealing causing you to generate a fuckload of aggro and get beat to death, to the days of pressing Cleric Stance.
Cleric Stance, for the record, not a good system, not fun.
Since the introduction of Shadowbringers especially, is a massive overhaul of the healing system in order to lower the barrier of entry, to the point where any tadpole left out in the open to asphyxiate can maybe pick it up.
I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Like, I see where this is going, and I understand the argument, but being able to pick it up easily isn't the issue. That's good game design. The issue is when there's little skill expression available at the high levels, which is the complaint right now that a lot of healer mains have.
About 1 billion changes and enough healers playing the game to finally make waiting around not take half an eternity. With so many changes to healing though, it now feels like fucking garbage.
Well, that's one opinion, right?
This is why healing has such a low focus on DPS buttons, so that you don't have to maintain some complex DPS rotation on top of keeping the party topped up. Except, not really. The thing that is stupid to me is that there is a leveling system in this game. Healing at first should be easy to pick up, but you would expect it to get a little more complex as you level. Instead, what you have is one filler button and one dot to maintain on every healer, and that is it.
Yeah, but I don't think healer complexity is measured by the amount of buttons that you have to press to do DPS. For a second, I thought he was going to say as you get higher in level, there's more outgoing damage, but you have way more tools to deal with it, so it kind of scales proportionately. I'm not someone of the opinion that the healer DPS rotation needs to have a lot of buttons. If I had a second dot, I don't know how my life would be positively impacted.
You get to keep that from level 16 to level 90. The exact same filler rotation for your entire existence.
Aren't rotational changes at different levels annoying though? I really don't like playing jobs that when you get synced down to a lower level, your entire existence changes. People complain that Reaper's level 90 rotation is a little too boring for a melee, but I did Reaper and Uwu, and you literally do nothing. You press 1, 2, 3 the entire time.
Without anything new or stimulating being added except for a fancy new healing button that will solve the exact same problem that you can already solve. The closest thing that we have to any variance on this right now is energy drain optimizations on Scholar and Phlegma Balls, which is just a button that you have to manage slightly more, and despite Sage being a side grade Scholar, it somehow feels like it gives it more depth, while also making it painfully obvious how ludicrously shallow healing has become.
I don't know about that either. I think that Sage is shallower than Scholar. I think Scholar has more depth because of the jank and how the toolkit doesn't interact flawlessly. You have to think more on Scholar. I'm of the opinion that Sage is more fun to play.
Encounters do not output damage at insanely high volumes unless you're running Savage at minimum item level or ultimate content in general, and
that's fair.
And even then, it doesn't matter that incoming damage can be fairly high when it is very calculated and consistent with each encounter. Learning fights while healing can be kind of cool, but you will eventually boil it down to where you plan to place your cooldowns and go back to mashing one button.
And that's the struggle with healers, right? It is by far, in my opinion, the most fun job to prog on. When you're attacking a fight for the first time and you don't have everything memorized and you're optimizing on the fly and you're creating your spreadsheet and you're working through the most efficient way to deal with situations, healing is the most fun I've ever had in this game. But when it's week 8 and it's week 10 and it's week 12, you can probably say your heal plan out loud without even having the game in front of you.
Begging for something to go wrong so that you have something new and interesting to do instead of going through the exact same repetitive motion. And I know exactly what you're going to say next, which is, hang on, Isn't that what DPS players do?
Yes, yes it is.
The answer is yes, but your non-stop filler rotation on DPS and even tanks is infinitely more interesting than what you get to do on healer.
I think that there's very little difference between having damage OGCDs or healing and defensive OGCDs. Either way, you're pressing your GCD buttons and you're doing something with an OGCD.
Imagine putting a little bit more work in to make your player base happy, even though double shield and double regen were and are still viable. Fuck, it's sometimes even meta.
Nah, I don't think they're meta. I think Scholar and Sage is fun, but definitely not meta.
This game is notorious for turbo casuals who only heal and don't DPS after playing the game for 5,000 hours.
Is that common anymore? This is getting back to the single pool tanks. I feel like it's very rare to find a healer who just flat out refuses to DPS. For low DPS healers, uptime is more of a problem than them just casting Medica 2 all the time.
Now let's get out there and go back to mashing one button with drool rolling down our face.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that one. Obviously, I'm a biased source of information, being a healer main and someone that finds healing fun, given the view and the like count. People appreciate this approach, but to me, this seems like a healer video by someone who doesn't play healer. The next person on the list is Lucy Pyre herself. Lucy is easily one of the fastest growing new Final Fantasy content creators. I'm not a regular viewer, but from what I've seen, Lucy is hilarious, and this is a short one, so let's get into it.
Do you like the feeling of godhood?
Yes.
Having ultimate control over destiny?
Sometimes.
Holding the fate of the party in your hands?
Honestly, sometimes that part's annoying.
Then you're looking at the wrong role. Because
What? Lucy, we are 10 seconds into this video. Come on.
healers are not for the power hungry. As of 6.0, healers are for role players. Or
Okay, that's a good intro. Well done, Lucy.
people who are too angry to learn anything else. Welcome to the Final Fantasy XIV Healing in a Nutshell Guide, and I'm here to tell you that we can get through this disaster together. Step 1. You are a healer. What do you think your job is? Multiple choice, take your time.
Probably A.
If your answer was healing, it's time to pick a different role. And if that sounds weird, it's because the tank can do most of your healing for you. So your real job is just making sure that no one kicks the bucket. You can accomplish this by having everyone at full health, or you could end the fight like me, where everyone is living on a fucking prayer. Yes, indeed. Your real job is 98% dealing damage and 2% babysitting the DPS that just can't seem to pick up a mechanic after seeing it for the 14th time.
From a video perspective, this is super interesting. Not only does she zoom in a lot more than I do, I think I do a good job zooming in on G-pose so that the scene is more cinematic, but almost all of my gameplay footage is from as far back as I possibly can be because that's how I play. But it does make it visually appealing when she zooms in like this because you can see better what's going on and the animations. And then the other thing, I think I have a handle on doing the animations just by myself, but she incorporates other people. I'm not sure if this is an NPC or like a friend that she filmed with, but that definitely makes it more visually engaging when there's more than one character on the screen.
Can't seem to pick up a mechanic after seeing it for the 14th time. You are the unappreciated mom of the party. You are here to kiss the job potion summoners' boo-boos and make them better. But no more than that, for you are a strict tiger mom, and all DPS should be forced to suffer. I mean, don't let them die.
Okay, she's excellent at G-pose. The transition from the straight face to the smug face, that's really, really well done.
Suffer. I mean, don't let them die, but let them panic at the disco a little bit. Who doesn't love seeing a summoner spam physic in pure desperation? Step 2. You have to pick a healer. What method will you use? Should you pick a healer that appeals to you on a personal level and won't lead to burnout? Or will you follow the all-knowing meta of the game that definitely matters?
Even this is cool. As she's doing the same exact shot I'm doing in this video, where you have the B-roll of scrolling through YouTube, in the foreground, she has both her character and some of the environment, which is super cool. I don't even know how to do that.
Trick question. Pretty much every healer is just the other healer, but with a different coat of paint, so I highly recommend picking Sage because damn, those lasers are sick, boy.
Okay, we're not even gonna wait till the end of the video. Yes. Yes.
I mean, yeah, there are some differences, but I can simplify them real quick for you, so here we go. Light Mage is your go-to pick if you hate both yourself and thinking.
My former healer main.
Theologian, pick this if you hate ever having a moment of peace and you enjoy carpal tunnels. Scholar, pick this if you love Navi and you like it when people die through no fault of your own. And Sage, pick this if you're a fucking base Chad and you have a need for speed. And there you have it. Enjoy your new main friend. Step.
Well done. Let's repeat that.
Pick this if you're a fucking base Chad and you have a need for speed. And
Alright, we like Lucy. We like Lucy here.
there you have it. Enjoy your new main. Step 3. So you've chosen your healer. How do you go about setting up your hotbar? You may
It goes back to what I was talking about before, which is having interesting ways to have words on the screen.
go about setting up your hotbar. You may recall that I said 98% of your time will be spent DPSing. This might not be true at first when you're new to the role, but as you get used to it and start to realize how little damage there is in mainline content, take a moment just to say thank you. You're doing a job not many people want, and where would those horrible DPS be without you? Even though you're never gonna have more than 2 buttons to deal damage, even though several of your job skills are useless enough to almost never get touched.
Even that's just so cinematic with the zoom in and the over blurred background. Just really, really pretty.
Even though your kit works against itself, even though you have too much healing when everything is going well, and not enough healing when more than 2 people make a mistake, even though warriors can heal themselves better than you ever could, even though... Congratulations, you've made it to the end of the guide, and you are now a Chad healer! Wow, this role sounds really well designed and fun. To summarize, keep everyone at 5% just to feel alive again and learn to love pain. Thank you so much for making my tank queues shorter. I love you, healer mains. Yay!
Except Momo, my alpha rival, huh?
Healer mains. Yay!
Well done, Lucy. You deserve that. Finally, we've been flirting with videos from between 5,000 to 150,000 views. This one, which is a crap guide to Final Fantasy XIV healers by JoeCat, has 1.5 million views. 1.5 million, so we gotta check it out.
I love power, and I love feeling powerful. It strokes my biggly wiggly and forces lesser beings to bow down to my awesome might, lest they taste my boot between their gums. Nothing has ever given me this.
Holy shit. I think I've seen this one other time. Wow. From the absurdity of that image to the editing, having its own animated art, that's gonna be hard to compare with.
Lest they taste my boot between their gums. Nothing has ever given me the same rush of adrenaline than knowing that everybody has to submit to my whims for their own safety. It makes my brain do the goody good chemicals and allows me to feel as though I have control over this truly unfortunate reality that the universe is slowly careening into an eventual heat death, and there's nothing anybody can do about it as we are inconsequential specks in this cruel and uncaring universe. But none of that.
That is like an automatic weapon of words. The non-stop speed with which he speaks not only keeps your interest, but makes it funnier.
That matters, because look at this. I can pull my party members into a pit that kills them.
True, no one else really brought that up. A hilarious part of being a healer.
Find that hilarious. Welcome to a crap guide to Final Fantasy. The greatest power of all is the power to have control over people's lives, which is why the healer is the most likely party member to have a god
This is the sage icon. That's well done.
complex. Right behind main tanks, mentors, and anybody who's an omnicrafter. You are the most important person in the party, as
True.
you, along with the tank, are responsible for keeping the party alive by kissing their boo-boos and slapping the bitch who made the boo-boo. That's right, as a healer, you do have to deal damage as well. Man, but it's called a healer, and healers are supposed to heal, right? Wrong! A healer's job is not necessarily to heal the party, but rather to keep them alive. And yes, there's a difference. There's going to be a lot of downtime between heals, and you bet your...
Okay, so I know this is a joke video, but that's actually a really good point. There's a huge difference between healing the party and keeping the party alive. And as a healer in Final Fantasy XIV, your job is to keep the party alive. If someone dies to unavoidable damage that was properly mitigated, it is your fault. But that doesn't mean they have to be at 100% health all the time, which is a distinction that not many people think of.
You're a flatus rumpus that you're making the fight take longer than it has to if you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs waiting for your next chance to cast Cure. What do you do when the party's full health? What do you do when the party's full health? Or even halfway up and standing? DPS the bad guys.
Perhaps I should write my own songs.
No, I don't pay your sub. But when the fight takes too long, it starts to rub all up on everybody's nerves. And when you hit endgame, it serves you right when the boss will wipe the party cause you couldn't beat and rage. Sure, you're for the most part keeping the party alive with a variety of healing, utility spells, some regen, some shields, but an equal amount of time you're casting those, you're also throwing in some extra DPS when time allows. Remember, DPSing is just mitigating future damage. And if you're able...
All of the videos we watched today have kind of approached this in different ways, but I think his is the most original. He has his name, which is a joke version of his name, and then the words that he wants to emphasize on screen, even if they're misspelled, are designed to look like writing from the game itself, which I think is super interesting, and just along with all of this video, super creative.
It's just mitigating future damage. And if you're able to kill the current wave of dungeon mobs before they deplete the tank's HP, which by the way is going to regen to full by the time you reach the next mob pool anyway, what does it matter how low their HP gets? So yes, DPS when time allows. When does time allow? Well, I know you're scared of independence and thinking by yourself, but that's going to be a balancing act you'll have to figure out. However, my rule of thumb is the minimum amount of HP a party member has to be at is 1. But if that's too scary for your whittle fingies, ask yourself, will the enemy's next attack make your party member fall on their ass? If yes, heal so that it doesn't. If no, time to become a glare mage, motherfucker.
Pretty good advice.
As long as they're alive and you're clearing the content, you're doing your job right. There is one caveat to doing your job right, and that's that everybody will hate you for it. Literally, by healing you start to generate a lot of aggro from the bad guy, so if you ever decide to heal before mob pulls in dungeons, it's important to stick close to the tank like an ERPer sticks to Vieira's wearing 2B thigh highs.
So Square Enix has fixed that.
Especially if you throw on a regen and suddenly 800 mobs crash through the wall with a How to Fry Fairies cookbook. You can still do it, but you should know what you're getting into. Like live streaming and hoping that anybody will watch. As
Very true. Very, very true.
for your limit break, we heard you like healing, so we put more healing in your healing so you can heal while you heal. Unfortunately, you won't be using any limit break aside from LB3 because LB1 and 2 just heal the party, and you already have plenty of band-aids and popsicles to do that on your own. For the flavors of healer, we have 3 boomers and the new kid on the block who bought a Glock and has a TikTok. The white mage is the most straightforward. You heal when a buddy is hurt and you attack when they're not. Just about everything in your arsenal is all about feeding them so much it'll make an inflation artist blush in embarrassment. You're also equipped with the best AoE skill in the entire—
I don't know about that anymore. You know, obviously it has stun, which is super useful, but Sage's AoE skill being an instant cast is pretty OP.
entire game, and the ability to never run out of mana unless you're really, really bad. Best of all, when your buddies get hurt, you can heal them to harness their blood for the blood lily. But let's say you want to play white mage, but you like tarot readings and star signs like a suburban woman in her mid to late 20s.
I think I know a few of those.
Astrologian is probably for you. You draw cards that will enhance the abilities of your party members, and you fill the arena with enough space dust and constellations that you'll need 5 layers of sunglasses to see. Taking this job will also teach you how to build a bomb. Don't worry, it's friendly. Scholar is a weirdo who used to hang out with all the bad DPS kids, but decided to turn their life around when they met a nice girl who supports them in their new hobby. Only problem is she knows nothing about your hobby, and you have to keep correcting her on fandom trivia. They're all about
Oh, and that kind of fairy jank is one of the reasons that I do not enjoy Scholar as much as I wish I did.
putting shields and defensive buffs that protect the party from taking damage in the first place. That way they can guess what? DPS even more. Also, your girlfriend can get thick. And finally, the new kid on the block, the Sage. A scholar who decided to stop being nice and pick up a gun that shoots lasers! Like Scholar, they also put shields and protective buffs on their party members so they can spend more time shooting lasers! How do they do
He really highlights the appeal of Sage. About 90% of it is lasers.
this? After seeing Alphino change to the job, my guess is the Nullists are liquefied carbuncles. Rest in peace, Carby. And now you know how to play.
Holy shit. Oh man, that's brutal.
Carby. And now you know how to play healer. You're welcome.
That is a great video. That is unbelievably funny. So yeah, like, subscribe. Well done, JoeCat. I probably couldn't even list the amount of editing takeaways I should make from that video because I am nowhere near skilled enough for that. But that was an absolute masterclass. That was hilarious, actually insightful, and really well done. I hope you guys liked the video. If it does well, we will do this again. I really like seeing what other Final Fantasy content creators are doing. I feel like it's fantastic creative inspiration as well as just a way to be involved in the community. Let me know in the comments what you thought about these videos and post any others that you think are particularly well done. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you again next week.